Hey, Father Taylor here. It's Friday, February 5th. Can you believe it's already February? And I'm here with your weekly eBlast update. Today, I'm going to talk to you specifically just about what's coming up in Lent. Sometimes, particularly or depending on what background you're from, Lent can sound like a long, hard, arduous thing with strange religious habits like giving up chocolate. Lent is basically this. It's a long history, a couple thousand years of taking 40 days to be intentional about your life with God and your and how to love your neighbors. It's all it is. 40 days of saying, I'm going to be intentional. And of course, at the end of the 40 days is the great service of Easter. That's how we end up. So, what do we got going this year for Lent? Our church has been trying every possible thing we can to keep people engaged. We understand how COVID's going. We've talked week after week about the burden it puts on us and how much harder it is to engage sometimes. And so Lent continues to be kind of like the creative leadership of a variety of people in your church family who are offering things to help you stay connected to God and to each other. And so in the eBlast, the list, it looks like, like a giant menu, and it is. So here's what I want to point out. The different activities we have, some might be what you called fixed date and time events, and some are you can do this event anytime that you can make available for yourself. And so there's this way of being able to stay connected with people on certain fixed time events, but also on your own. There's a variety of offerings of which you can just do on your own. So I'm going to start with that one. Somewhere on the eBlast in this long list is a link to what's called Learning to Pray the Examen. The Examen is a prayer I only found out about maybe 10, 12 years ago. It was developed a long time ago, well, 500 years, by Saint Ignatius Loyola. And what I find is, although it's 500 years old, it couldn't be more relevant than today. In the prayer of Examen, which takes anywhere like 10, maybe 15 minutes, you sit and you are guided through a process of how to reflect on your previous day, seeking to find out where was God present. The action itself, I find, really gets me centered and focused because I have to sit for a little bit and just kind of listen. And so what I do in the video is I give you a little bit of background on the front end, and then I walk you through the 5 steps. And the whole process is that as you walk through the videos and as you practice this, you'll be able to do this on your own, anytime, any place. I did not come up with this technique, and everything that I tell you about the Examen is heavily based on the work of a guy who I started reading, and I followed his videos, and his name was Jim Manny. But check out that video. You do it one time. It's got a really nice little relaxing picture. I think you'll find it very peaceful. And as you practice it, it's going to surprise you as you begin to find God not in some kind of just totally religious form in your life, but God in the everyday stuff of what you do. So that's a anytime, and you can pray this anytime you want kind of event. Now, a group of other people, particularly Kathy Sutton and Tara Smith, came up with another similar way to do prayer and to learn about the scriptures from the book of Acts. And that is, they have created a small group setting based on the app Pray As You Go. You may already use that, but they're going to use that app. And there's a beautiful introduction and explanation of that you have. And that, again, that's like I got my phone is all I need. You can do it anytime, but they went way above and beyond, and they set up a time on Monday through Friday, a different time for people to collect together as a small group so you can share with each other what's going on and how that's working for you. And you get a little chance to be able to talk about what you're going through. What a great idea that is. The app is anytime you want, and it has groups where you can check in with people on that. So that's another great event. Of course, it all kicks up with what I call a fixed time event, and that is Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday is not 5 days a week. Ash Wednesday is on, that's all right, great. It's Wednesday, Wednesday, February 17th. But 4 different ways to engage with Ash Wednesday. You can pick up, and in some cases, we will deliver ashes to you so that you can come at 8 o'clock in the morning on on our Zoom link, and in the 8 o'clock prayer service, we will have prayer service that includes the Ash Wednesday imposition of ashes. So you can be at home, have your own ashes. We walk through the service together, and you can do your own ashes. Then at 12:30, this is like for people who live in the area and who are working from home. You can zip over to the church in your car. When you pull into the parking lot, someone will give you your ashes, and you park. We have it all arranged. We have room for 33 cars to park in the parking lot, and you will turn to 88.1 on your FM dial. I'll be standing out freezing with my Albin stole on, but the service itself, you can stay in your car. This way, the service takes about 15 minutes. You're in your car, you have your ashes. There's no exposure to COVID. Your car might cool off a bit because I'm going to ask you to turn off your car for 15 minutes. But the whole service is a drive-in service broadcast on your FM radio. You can have a friend or people in your COVID cluster. They can be in the car with you. We have ashes for you to impose those ashes. 12:30, you're back to work by 1 o'clock if you live in the Simsbury ballpark area. Okay. Then at 4:30, we have about a 20-minute service. Same thing, drive in, you get ashes and communion. And we do an abbreviated service, about 20 minutes long, where you can, it will include some music even, where we will do the same thing. You'll have a parking lot in your car service for ashes and communion. And then at 7 o'clock, our traditional time, same thing again, ashes and communion. And I guess I'm going to get a light. I don't know how we're going to do that, but we got some crazy, we're figuring things out as we go. But you'll be able to do that again on Ash Wednesday. So 4 different times. Children, bring your kids. What a great thing. Your kids will actually be able to have the ashes. So maybe you vacuum your car later. But like, think of like how tactile it is when your kids are imposing ashes, or you're doing your ashes on your kids. So great thing as we come to that moment where we slow down enough and remember that we came from dust, to dust we shall return. It's a sobering but centering a concept of Ash Wednesday and God's grace. Okay, that's a fixed date event. Also in fixed date events, you may have come to before a mini retreat. Retreats, I find it takes me like 2.5 days to settle down in a good retreat setting. But for people to be able to say, hey, let's take 3 days away. So I introduced the idea of mini retreats when I came in 2017, and we've had about 100 different people, some of them more than once, come to a mini retreat. People find them to be very centering and focused, because as the busyness of our lives, if we want to listen to God, it does take a little effort for us to get centered, get refocused, and just to focus on the Lord. And so I've set up a way how to do mini retreats even with COVID. The way it's going to be done is, that's explained, is we will have certain areas of our church, perhaps 5 in the sanctuary, 5 upstairs, and then 1 in the chapel, so that we have about 11, maybe 12 different places where people have tremendous amount of space and there's no real interaction, and we have plenty of air, all that stuff that makes you, that reduces that risk of COVID. So 12 spaces for people to be in the building for retreat. And I am setting aside other spaces for people who can do it, that you can do this from home, but you have to agree to do the setup of your retreat space at home. I have a setup here. This is where I'd like right here. This is like most of my my COVID days were spent pretty much right here. And this is an area in which I pray in all the time. And so when I come here, I don't like, I don't do other things. Although I do my workouts, another space here, but this is where I go. This is where I can be quiet. I can put my phones away and I can be focused here. You can do a retreat from home as long as you set it up for yourself with great discipline, that you're not going to check the laundry or make a sandwich or do these other things, that because the retreat's being away, you have to figure out a way how to do that from home. So I'll coach you on how to do that, but the whole retreat is led on your device. I will still be here leading the retreat, because that way I can do all the Zoom parts and people can be in the building, but you'll need to have a phone or an iPad or a laptop. And we will connect on Zoom and I'll lead you through the retreat on Zoom. And if you've been on one of these retreats, you know what's coming. We're gonna have a little time of just getting ready. We'll have a time of quieting down. We'll have some dwelling in the word that'll lead to perhaps the prayer of examine, all the way which will lead up to you on your own as you've been led, of taking some scripture that you've picked up at the retreat and getting time simply to sit with it and to reflect. It's not that long. I used to say you could tell your family you were going to the store because you leave in the morning, you get here at 8:30 and you're home by lunch. It's really not that long. Um, but I find that a block of time like that is as valuable as maybe 4 or 5 once a week blocks. It's really helpful. So we're figuring out how to sign up. I want to make it really easy. You can send me an email. You can send an email to the church, but we'll get you signed up. And there'll be some information about that also. But as they say on that old knife commercial, that's not all. During Lent, on Wednesday nights, every Wednesday night, we will have Evensong available on Zoom. If I can figure out, we can probably put this to some degree on Facebook, but to participate, we have it on Zoom. So here's what that is. Evensong is simply evening prayer in a music setting. And so evening prayer is generally spoken, but it's also set for music. So Paula and the choir are developing pieces of music for Evensong. So when you come on Wednesday night, I'll lead you through the prayers and it'll be interspersed with this great music they have. So every Wednesday night during Lent, it's going to have this kind of celebratory great music and accompanying video for Evensong. Now you think, well, that's a lot, but I still got one more. This look. If you know somebody that says, "Look, I'm trying, I just can't like, church online, looking at a screen, it's too hard for me." Here's another one. Starting up on, you'll see the date, the start date, but we are now going to have prayer walks Sunday morning. You meet at 9:30. People have, we've already have people mapping out the trails, and we go in a group, twos and threes on a trail, taking a walk on Sunday morning together as fellowship, and there'll be prayer involved. Some people are even thinking about having service in the background. I think if you just get out on a prayer walk, an intentional prayer walk on Sunday morning, that takes you, I don't know, 45 minutes, an hour, I think that would be extremely refreshing. Do you remember that Jesus never said, where people form up into small churches with pews and an altar, and if you get over 50 people, I'm in the midst of them? No. He said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I'm in the midst of them. My personal recommendation would be you would take the gospel story at the beginning, you would read the gospel together, you would just maybe ask a couple of questions and then take a walk and think about the gospel and just talk to each other, have fellowship with one another in a prayerful way as you do this walk. Come back, say some prayers together. That's an alternative to If you can't sit still and watch Zoom, you can come out to this prayer walk. There's information about that too. Really, really great stuff. So great creativity coming from all kinds of people in our church. Uh, the our church. So here, let me just in a final way. We're getting back. Our church is pivoting back to what church is really all about. Church is a community of people called by God in mission. It's a community in mission. It's a community in motion. So there's two parts of it. It's people that come together. There's all that forgiveness and becoming God's people and discipleship. That's what community is. But discipleship is never, I learned 10 commandments so I can be a good person. That was never the intention. Even from the 10 commandments, that's not the intention. It's how do we live in this world as part of what God is doing. And so we are pivoting as a church to be really focused on that we're a community in mission, community in motion. And because of that, we have to be very protective of our community right now. When I asked for feedback in those questions I sent to you before annual meeting, the number one comment was this: yes, we feel connected to the church, but we just feel so separated from each other. So the purpose of these events are to continue to come up with creative ways how to get us connected to God and to each other. And so we keep coming up with new stuff. But at some point, you have to say, it wasn't what I would have picked, but you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. Kathy Oak's video, which maybe we can try again this week. But Kathy Oak's video, the last part of it, the part that I really wanted you to hear, was not about her becoming junior warden. It was about that when she went to annual meeting and met in those small Zoom rooms, what she discovered was that just showing up is extremely powerful. Just showing up. She said it's not her thing, like hanging out in the Zoom room after church. It's really not her thing, but she realized that just getting together, as incomplete, as two-dimensional as Zoom is very powerful for encouraging one another and for helping us to stay connected as a community. And it takes a little effort for all of us. And so that's why we have gone way beyond which I've ever seen before in a church this size to come up with all these different opportunities for Lent. So I said a lot. There's a bunch of stuff in the eBlast. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a look at it. And then I want you to think about somebody you know from church who may not have looked at the eBlast, and to call them up and to say, hey, have you seen what's in the eBlast? Can we do one of these things together? Invite somebody. You want to feel connected? Call them on the phone, invite them to participate in something. All right? Final comment. Everything we do at church is open to people who aren't necessarily members here. Your role, you know what the most important part of the service is for a church in mission is the words which we take as kind of a toss off. We throw away these words, but they're extremely theologically significant. And that is when we say, go in peace. That is to say that we've been, after the service, we're back at peace with God and one another, to love and serve the Lord. It's the going, it's the leaving in which you're engaging with everybody that you do at work and at school and at the grocery store. That's the mission. It isn't something complicated. That's the mission. And so all we do is open to everybody. So don't just think of like your church friends. Think of somebody else who might be interested in, maybe doing like the prayer of examine. They can put that on their phone. They can just follow along. So anyway, think about church, your church community in motion, your church community in mission together. All right. Thanks so much. And if I don't see you sooner, hopefully I'll see you on Sunday.